Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to today's stream. Today, a different market. I'm going to look at the DAX today, just to trade from Monday when you had that really big break. But just trying to then talk about mainly where you set your targets and trying to keep it simple, even though the market's gone, I think it did about 140 ticks quite simply. I think I ended up like 30 or 40 out of it. You're just trying to then find out where your simple ticks are, if that makes sense, and just have a look at this sort of trade and sort of debrief on how you can get better. And I'm trying to understand trading a different market in a little bit more of the sort of same way as I would with the oil and gold mainly. But I'm just going to literally just go through that, go through the Evernote of this, go through the charts, and just show the bit of price action of how I entered it, sort of how we can then, like, moving forward, how do you sort of like end up looking and trade the DAX for myself, because I've only traded it a handful of times and there's been some couple of good moves this week, I feel, in the market. And what I'm trying to do at the moment is try and bank the P&L. I've left a lot of P&L on the table recently, or even over the last year or so, and I'm trying to learn to not hold on to trades forever and take simple parts of trades and trying to keep it with your high probability amount of ticks. So mainly just want to then go through what I was exactly looking at, and basically it's like how also that I built the trade. And coming into the morning, you've got this idea, you've got these levels, right? But you don't know how it's going to get there. You don't know, exactly. It's never going to be perfect. So this is what you ended up having. Sort of, this is obviously after it happened. You had a very big move on the day. All that Omicron fears have gone out. And you're just really going from backwards and then building it forwards on what this basically tells you, and how you can sort of picture this and build conviction from, like, say, down here, where you can build some from just these overnight stops moves that you had on that day, going into what this is then showing you. That's your sort of short-term supporters ended up putting it. And then afterwards you had this tight auction block, and then overnight you started to move higher. How strong is that move higher? And then you can look into what your profiles look like into that. So basically that's pretty much how I built this sort of idea. Just trying to build it from left to right. I felt this was very, very important, that you get this little real auction block at the sort of the end of the day going into the overnight, showing that you've got these two next areas where everybody else also short below here. You'd think, I know it looks really obvious, but you'd think it's getting your time then. As soon as he starts breaking, you'd then get this up move, and obviously you get a good couple hours out of it. But for me, I was just trying to keep the targets very simple. Okay, where's the simple movement? And over time, that's how I want to trade it. I can see these big picture moves, but I think got to then learn how to, like, bank the P&L. You want to, instead of trying to hit home runs, which I keep trying to do way too much, just then working on your simple things, your simple probability ticks, sizing up on those can then only make you get better on, as long as you keep evernoting these bigger moves. But that's how I built it from sort of the old candlestick perspective, going into then what your profiles look like. And again, this is where in the morning it changes. And I use the cash one and I use an all sessions one. And again, building left to right, you'll see on this left side, you had that sort of real slanted, sort of like tapery profile. I have scrunched this up a bit to fit it all in. And then you're moving sideways and you're pretty balanced for 1, 2, 3. You've basically gone 4 days here. With all the other days you've got behind you, you've got these 4 days. You ended up auctioning this part down here, which was sort of this area. You ended up having a strong close. Your value shifted up and you're like, okay, great. You then done this auction bit here on that day. Sort of like 45 degrees. It probably isn't. It's probably quite stretched when it's like that. And again, this is understanding some new shapes to these profiles in different markets, and then leaning on what you previously know from others as well. Then what you've got here is then the way I was sort of thinking this at the beginning was, I believe it was these 86s. I was like, well, if you auction around here below it or etc., your trigger is going to be the break of 86s. You'll be at 36s quite fast, and you'll continue the move. That was my sort of original plan. In the end, what you got was this overnight move here, which left some single prints. And then for me, I was like, well, if this move's going to be strong, what I was thinking during at the beginning of the day, can you hold above these sort of 3 highs? Can you sit in here before you go higher? And that's exactly what I felt. You've got your strong then set of single prints. You have core, you've got some core strength in the market. Going from the strong close also, and that overnight move and that little bit of auction overnight in this structure. So again, your probability then of things adding up is getting better. And then this is something for me to keep doing in my own game to actually build the conviction to put much more size on. So you've got that as your all session one. Inside day also is another little element. So then this is what your cash. So this is where you're starting from 7 o'clock. So what you ended up getting, you gap up and you've held. You got open is right at the bottom. What you ended up doing was just auctioning the top of this profile, which again is completely fine. The trade, obviously, this is where it changed at 7 o'clock when you've come in, you've seen it, and it's trading around that area. Like, okay, well, is it going to go before 8 o'clock? Is it going to go, whenever? Is it going to go, 10 o'clock? So the way I then was adapting this in between that 7 and 8 o'clock is just really, I did a lot of focus on where this can then go from here. You can either then come back down and then sort of your trade is still there for later on in the day, etc. And you'll build it from there. But then the way I was thinking is that you're right below that 36 level. I was looking, I think it was around 80, 88, I think it was. So this was the high. This was another cash high from a little while ago, which I was just looking at just as a simple move from there to there, like 50 ticks or so. He also ended up having an IB break, initial balance break, and right on the level. So you're right below, I think it was 38 was the actual level of that high. But again, you're just building in the structure from over here, in here, your other profiles, all your charts along. And it's just become a lot of adaptation in the morning to be still building the conviction and not being worried about it. And then I was like, well, right below the level, initial balance breaks, as soon as we get to that level, you see something in a bit of pace into it, just hit it. And that's basically what I did. Did go straight offside straight away. But as you'll see here, this is just a 15-second chart. So my entry was, you opened on this big red candle here. That's where you opened. Just went straight down, and then I was like, okay, well, now you've got that open, people short straight away. As soon as you get back above and you're right on these levels, let's look to them, get long, show some volume. You also had a lot of delta coming in with you over here. Your delta was very strong and just a lot of buying stepped in. But this wasn't the easiest of moves. This was very up and down and choppy, as I'll show you. I'm going to show you sort of where I got in and this part up here, or mainly. And then just going through this, hit that, went straight offside. Really, I'll try to be the aggressive, like hit it and it goes straight onside. Really, I suppose your stop in the end could have been this low. It's probably not good enough. 15-second hammer as well. Probably your stop's really down here, which is, it's quite a lot really, 25 ticks or so. But again, that gives you the room. I was looking at this line back here to then have a pullback to around these highs. That's another thing that I was saying, okay, well, if this keeps grinding, my targets, basically I got out, I think, somewhere in here, just below, I think it was like 77s, I think. Again, that's me just trying to bank P&L 30 ticks, 46 on side, trying to look for that area. But you could see it was very messy and very choppy, and I was like, well, as long as you're above then the 34s, that's fine. That, it seems to, I noticed that DAX seems to respect little lower time frame charts quite well. It's sort of like this bit here, sort of holds that high from over there. Then you continue. So this was the next point where I felt like, oh, how do you add into this idea? You got good conviction. And a lot of me, when I start adding, as you've seen multiple times, it doesn't seem to work that well. So I'm trying to then focus at the moment on just being one hit. That's it. Stop. Done. And this was another little point where you could have added in just on these little breaks, sort of like just the top of there. That's where I felt like you could have then added in little pullback, just watching where the price is. You'll see delta then start to change around there at that sort of point. So that was just sort of, this is where I'm zooming in on these 15-second charts, and I'm using them a lot just to look to execute. And you'll see here, this is your 1 minute, just held the moving average on a 20, I think it's an SMA or an EMA, one of them. I think I might have changed it to the simple. It just held it all the way up in the end, and from here, if you did that, etc., you know, it's 140 ticks higher later on. And again, this is a little bit more, you know, when you have such clear idea and structure, the more experience you get, you can build these things in, which is currently not in my game yet, but you'll see these and you'll map these over time. And I pretty much just went from here to here, you know, keeping it as simple as possible, because I could see such a large move, but you never know how it's always going to get there. So a bit more mapping, etc., throughout the time will do you good. So I bought in this absorption point here, just went straight down offside and then come back. Then you got a little bit more absorption up the top. And again, you'll see when it trades, it is a very up and down, and you're trying to then get a gist of it, of, okay, this isn't really the nicest of breakouts, but I've seen the markets trading oil and gold where it's just doing this all the way up, and it comes down and then goes up. So it's like you could get comfortable with it. And that's just how the market was trading on that day and on that breakout. But yeah, and there's some of the last few points that I just trying to change up my Evernotes a bit, and I did a lot of writing, and I'm trying to do a lot of in-game stuff and my emotions on holding things. Just a few little pointers of things that you did well, and trying to keep them as brief as possible. So quickly go through the just a couple points of this. So this is, so all you really need to focus on, the DAX is just this one here. And then so you got the three equities on your left. That's all you really need to focus on. You'll see the correlation between them all as well. So you're just coming into 8 o'clock, and the levels highlighted in the 38s. And Eurostox had a level at 86s, which it broke over just before 8 o'clock. So again, you're leaning on some other market structure that you've got as well. What you got is that all the equities went straight down on the open. So I was always thinking about the chance of it breaking back above and right below the level. And again, it's much thinner than what I'm used to others. So you just got to get used to how it sort of trades. So you sort of look and see as you sort of get, to me, you get the momentum straight. Like for me, it's just quite straight away, and you're breaking the level. But then you definitely got someone trying to sell it up here because it kept coming back down. And you'll see how on this side here, how that sort of thickens up quite quickly. And you're seeing then how it trades, it keeps going back and forth each time. I did think about scratching it at one point, which again, to me, that's me just getting a little bit nervy with it in there because it's not breaking. This could easily trade down here and you'll be 20 ticks offside. So in the moment, I just sort of make sure you give it the room, because there was another move that I was talking to Eric about the day before that you'd end up being sort of maybe 20 ticks offside or so. So you've got to give yourself the room. And when you're coming back to sort of this area where you've seen it trade before, you just want to see a little bit of a change. And that's what you get. It started to reload about from sort of the 38s when it come back, and then you get hit up again. So there's always these little small increments that you're trying to then find out to change. You get in S&P, Eurostock, they're all trading the highs, they're all trading these big levels. So you get in the bigger position in the unwinds. You sort of from around here, it's just sort of holding, see 15, 10 lots each time. But you'll see how it kept trading, kept going back and forth quite a lot, sort of in this little moment. And you just trying to find something unique in this sort of moment to then get you to then be like, okay, well, the trade is on. And again, you made a new high, and seems to be very washy back and forth. But this is what it was like all the way up, pretty much, the whole move. Just up and down. It never really accelerated away. There was one point where it accelerated away, and I thought that was it. But you just want to keep seeing the sort of the reload that comes in, see market, just keep hitting prices out. I remember this bit, traded 28s, traded the 28 lot, come straight back down. But you'll see how it's sort of thickening up on this side, where you are getting a lot of sort of two-way. And that was that little bit in that footprint that second time where it kept going up and down, up and down. It's showing a little bit of absorption. But again, all you kept doing was coming back to sort of these 38s at this stage. So you're sort of, you're okay. Yet it's just not at that point yet where it's really unwinding. Again, you can sort of see that little flurry that it does. It's more of like a flurry sometimes because it takes up prices very quickly. You get sort of like 566 sort of flurry back up. And then you sort of traded this 50s quite a lot because it started to build at that price as well. Yeah, sort of even the oil was going bid as well for these equities as well. So what you ended up then creating also here was just this 82 lots traded. It just kept sort of trading that. Sometimes you get that with that gold and the oil, you see 100 plus sort of just block up. And to me, at this stage, you're sort of okay. You're just getting these up and down rotations that aren't really going too far. They're just going up here, down here, up here, down here, you know, like that. And you sort of can have the belief on that. You had a nice extension up at this stage. And then that's what I was questioning at this stage where you got like a nice 10-tick move through the high. And then it just comes straight back. And sometimes you've seen these in the oils and the golds and you're just like, okay, that's not really ideal what you want to be seeing. But again, you're on side, you can be comfortable with how it's been trading. Okay, all it's done is just up and down, and then you get some quite good extension at that point. And if we fast forwarded a little bit more, so at one stage so this point here, that's where it was doing that little rotation block and it's sort of trading in between the 38s and the 50s. And this is where I was thinking about another point to add. But if I buy another one, I'd end up buying the 50s and then my price would be sort of 45s. Again, it would have been okay, but I know in my head when I'm adding and I ruin the trade so many times because then your risk then is even bigger because you're adding more and you're then actually getting worse prices. So to me, like on that emotional part, it then creates much more of an issue because I'll end up scratching at 45s and then I'll end up running a 30-tick loser when you've actually got a better price here. So I'm currently trying to find high conviction in in the trades where I can put more size on straight away. But again, eventually you sort of get another little flurry higher. Again, it sort of takes up to sort of 82s. And again, targets 88s, 82s. I was like, okay, it's going to trade it. It doesn't, and then it squeezes, and it's just a little bit of churning at this top part where, to me, I wasn't so pleased. So I was like, well, I've done some hard work. Okay, you know, I'm trying to just bank P&L at the stage because I keep giving so much away. To be honest, I did the same sort of thing yesterday, trading the DAX as well, taking a loser when it's worth a scratch and you're on side, doesn't reach your target, 10 ticks from your target, you don't get out. And that's sort of it's like not the hero in trade, but you're like, oh, make sure it gets to your target. Don't just be a snatcher, which is something I used to do quite a lot. But trying to, you know, improve the understanding when's the right time to snatch, when the incorrect time is. But from all of this, you've learned quite a lot of trading in different markets, and you're trying to find structure in other markets. You're trying to use what you've used with other markets as well to add into sort of this. You know, to me, this little nice bit there, again, I felt it was the right sort of thing to be doing. And then you got a little smack down again. And this is where, at this stage, you go, it's so close to your target. Now you're then 15 ticks away again. And this is where you just need a little bit sometimes more patient. It's hard when you're just trading a one lot. And again, because the DAX could be the expensive one, you know. So you just have to then just learn to take what you've got and not try and be like that hero trading, which, you know, I do like it, but you just learn to like snatch and stuff like that when the right time is correct, about taking high probability amount of ticks. So in the end, you can sort of see it sort of got stuck and you're very close to your targets and, you know, 10 ticks off. So I was like, okay, well, let's get out at this point before, you know, you've done all this hard work. But this is how it was trading, and then that's how you just got to understand it. But again, a lot of for this trade, and again, it's what I really like is that you've got a lot of building into it, and then sort of these trades really for me should be those ones where you do have the high conviction. Again, the access for this is quite difficult. It's not the easiest sort of nice little block. You can buy in it and you buy the break and it goes. This is when you had to be a little bit more aggressive and be a bit more patient with the execution. It's like you could have bought, say, 5. You still would have been, it's no different to a 1. It's just a little bit more size and more risk to allocate. But your risk of 20 ticks or so was still the same. As long as you can take that, that's completely right. And to me, my doing with what I was doing with adding and stuff, it wouldn't have actually caused me any problems if you say you traded 5 or 10, etc. But now that's what I wanted to sort of go through today, just a little bit more of an adaptation of when sometimes you come in the morning and the market's done something what you wanted to do. It happens multiple times. You just have to then adapt to the idea of, can you switch on and change instead of maybe getting the hump about it, because we all do that. And then it just only builds your experience, and technical's much better. But that's it from me today. Normal information, you want to get in touch, info@axiafutures.com. I'm back next week. Cheers, guys.